Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining me on this Wednesday, September 14th in the Locher Room. I'm Alan Locher, Tony Award winner and one of Time Magazine's 100 most influential people of 2022. Michael R. Jackson is here today to talk about his Tony and Pulitzer Prize winning musical, A Strange Loop, as well as his love of daytime television and guiding light. One of Michael's favorite daytime actresses, Kim Zimmer, will join us a little later on in the show. Both Kim and I saw A Strange Loop recently, not together, and were blown away by Michael's raw and beautiful piece of art. And we encourage you all to run and go see this show. I can't stop listening to the music, by the way. It is my pleasure to welcome to the Locher Room Tony Award and Pulitzer Prize winning playwright Michael R. Jackson. Hey, Michael.
Hey, Alan. It's such a pleasure to be here with you.
It's a pleasure to meet you. Such a pleasure to meet you. I have to tell you, when I started to promote your appearance on the show, Terry Garber reached out to me.
Terry!
To tell me that her daughter and you are very close friends.
Yes, I love Molly so much.
How do you and Molly know each other?
She was in my very first musical. Molly is an actress as well.
Yep.
Who was in my very first musical when she was in college. And since then, she's been like a frequent collaborator of mine, singing a lot of my material and helping me to develop a lot of my work.
That's awesome. It made me think when Terry sent me that I need to maybe get Molly and Terry together, a mother and daughter, mother and daughter show. Take me back and tell me where your love of the arts or musical theater began.
So I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and
we'll go back there when we get the other Michigan lady out here.
Great. And I, as a little kid, like I grew up in church and stuff, and so I was. My parents kept me very busy, so I sang in the choir. I later became. I later started taking piano lessons, like when I was around 8 years old. I started playing piano at church for some of the choirs. I joined an Black all-city classical chorus that I sang with. I did child acting for a brief stint. I took dance classes. Like, my parents just kept me very, very busy, and I sort of gravitated toward the arts. And then I also started writing like poems and short stories, as a middle school to high schooler, and I sort of fell out of interest of being an actor, and I really wanted to write, like in some form. Although my real dream, as I will get into, was like I wanted to write for soap operas. So because I grew up watching them, but I wrote a lot of fiction and poetry and all throughout high school, and so I was just very, very involved in the arts for like my whole life.
After seeing A Strange Loop, having you write for daytime dramas, they would have, done quite well to have you on board.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite musicals? And if we had a camera on you, when you were little, what songs would you be singing?
I really love, I've loved a bunch of them over many years since I was a kid, but the ones that really stay with me are Chorus Line. Showboat is one that I have a deep affection for. Cabaret, and then like some more contemporary musicals like Passing Strange, The Bubbly Black Girl Sheds Her Chameleon Skin. So many, but those are some highlights. And then I put the Sondheim musicals sort of in their own category, separate from everything else, because I love like all of those in different ways.
Interesting. So for viewers tuning in, can you, in a nutshell, tell us what A Strange Loop is about?
A Strange Loop is a musical about a young, fat, Black, gay musical theater writer who is named Escher and is working at a Broadway show, who is writing a musical about a young, fat, Black, gay man named Escher, who works as an usher at a Broadway show, who's writing a musical about a young, fat, Black, gay man named Escher, who works as an usher at a Broadway show, and sort of cycling through his own self-hatred.
And you were an usher.
I did. I was. I ushered at the New Amsterdam Theater for 5 years for 3 different shows: The Lion King, Mary Poppins, and I did a brief stint at Aladdin. That was a little separate from that, but 5 years total.
As someone who loves musical theater, was that quite amazing to be there every night?
At the time, I don't think I fully appreciated it. The Lion King was not my favorite show at the time, though. I will say in the years since, I've sort of retroactively come to appreciate it a lot, because I actually think I learned a lot about entertainment and entertaining audiences from watching the audience watch the show. And that's something that I tried to sort of bring with me as I was developing A Strange Loop.
Interesting. Well, talk about developing A Strange Loop and sort of where the genesis for the idea came from.
Yeah, well, it sort of began really organically about almost 20 years ago. I had just graduated from undergrad NYU playwriting. I had no prospects. I had no idea what I was going to do with my life. I had a BFA. I had nothing. I moved to the middle of nowhere, Jamaica, Queens, to this little old lady's house on the second floor of her bungalow style house. And I just was like, what am I doing? What am I happening? Because I'd spent, 3.5 years at NYU sort of, bopping around New York and being just carefree or whatever. And then suddenly it felt like, oh gosh, how am I going to make money? What am I going to do? And I was sort of sad. And also the world was in a very crazy place, because it was very much in that post 9/11 moment. Yeah. And I just remember seeing guards still carried guns around everywhere at the subway station and everything. And so I was just in a very introspective place. And so I started writing this monologue called Why I Can't Get Work. Because at the time I was like, I can't get a job doing anything. But that monologue ended up being this very personal sort of testimony of a young, fat Black gay boy wandering around New York, wondering why life was so terrible. And then the piece just began to evolve from there. But in the beginning, I had no intention for it to be a musical. It was just purely a very personal sort of creative exercise.
How did it morph into just over time?
Yeah, so in that period when I was living in Jamaica, Queens, I started ushering. I also started applying for jobs in grad schools, because I just figured I just needed something to land on. And I got into the NYU Graduate Musical Theater Writing Program. And so then when I went into that program, I went in as an aspiring lyricist and book writer. And I just started doing that. And then at the end of the first year, we had an assignment where a teacher said, if you're a lyricist who's never written music and you want to try it, go for it. And since I had a long music background, just growing up with it and singing and playing and everything, I decided to try writing my own song. And I wrote a song for my class, and that song was called Memory Song, which made its way into A Strange Loop. But that was the first song I ever wrote. And it went over really well in my class. And at the time, it was just a standalone song for me. But I was encouraged to continue writing music, even though for my thesis project for the second year, I was going to be paired with a composer. So I just with that encouragement from my teachers and my classmates, I just kept writing more songs on the side. And just over time, a lot of those songs were very personal, and they started to sort of speak to the monologue that I had written a couple of years before. So me and a director who I was working with at the time just started to try to put some of those songs into the monologue, and then that forced sort of the piece to begin to open up and change. And I just kept with it, on and off over the years, developing, writing new songs, taking things out, changing things. And it just really was a real process of discovery to find the musical within that.
Wow. I mean, it really, I've been doing this show a little over 2.5 years, and to hear actors, playwrights, people talk about that sort of support for, during your educational process, it's so important, because just getting that really helped you continue to do what you love to do.
And that was actually, and that was one in a long line of teachers who did that. So when I was in high school, I went to Cass Tech in high school, which is one of the three sort of big Detroit high schools. And my creative writing teacher, who was also the head of the English department, Miss Thompson, she had this program called Inside Out that used to come into the schools that would bring professional writers into the schools so that, we could see writing as more than a hobby, and also to give kids an outlet. And I worked with professional writers and residents my whole 4 years, because I took creative writing as my elective every semester. And so I was very immersed in writing and having adults take me very seriously. And then one of them did a private workshop outside of class that I took like during the summer. And he really sort of challenged me, and he encouraged me. So I had teachers literally at every single step of the way of my deciding that I cared about this vocation, to push me along and encourage me all the way through grad school. And I credit them with really sort of setting the course for my success, because if I hadn't had that at so many crucial points, I never would have occurred to me, apply to this graduate program, go to this undergrad, do this thing, try this thing experimentally in your writing, all this stuff. Teachers, every single step of the way. I hold them in the highest regard.
I love that. I love that. Talk about the musical influences in A Strange Loop.
Yeah, so a lot of the music sort of comes from a lot of different places. I, grew up in Motown. My parents, very much that is their era of music. And so that was a lot of the first music that I ever heard as a kid. So if you listen particularly to like the vocal harmonies, in A Strange Loop, there's a sort of ensemble of 6 thoughts, of Usher's thoughts, who sort of play all these people in the universe that he sort of lives in. And a lot of the vocal harmonies from that came from me just growing up listening to like the Temptations, the Four Tops, the Spinners, Earth, Wind and Fire, Ray Goodman and Brown, etc. And then a lot of gospel music that I grew up on, the Clark Sisters, the Winans, etc. But then there's also, there's a song on the show called Inner White Girl. And Inner White Girl is sort of drawn from my sort of teen love of sort of what I call my triumvirate. People like Tori Amos, Joni Mitchell, and Liz Phair. These sort of white women rockers who sort of were sort of raw and out there and really sort of vulnerable in their writing. And I specifically, Tori Amos was somebody who I encountered like when I was about 15 years old, and whose album Under the Pink really sort of began to open me up into trying to find my own voice as an artist, because I was so impressed with like her audacity in her music and her lyrics, and just in the things she was singing about. And I myself was like, I want to write about things that are that personal as well. And so I sort of began to imitate her a bit. And so there's some of the writing in the show is sort of drawn from, was inspired by those artists who wrote in that way.
Gotcha.
Singer-songwriter
Is
style.
I mean, I can only imagine how many times you've heard the music. And maybe this question has morphed over time, but do you have a favorite?
Oh gosh. I mean, I really love Inner White Girl. I think because it took me a long time to write it, because I needed it to be very specifically what it was. And it took me a long time to figure out the form of it and exactly what the idea that I was sort of trying to express in it. And I didn't want there to be any confusion, or I wanted it to be as clear as I could get it to be. And so I was really happy with where I ultimately landed up on it, especially because I had thought I had finished it at a certain point right before we started rehearsal. And then we did a rehearsal of it at a concert where I was going to sort of debut the song. And in the rehearsal, I was like, because my friend Daniel had orchestrated it for that concert. And when I listened to it in the band rehearsal, I was like, ooh, this sounds so good, but it's missing a bridge. And I wouldn't have known that unless I'd heard that arrangement. And so I was like, Daniel, well, before we do this, I need to go home and like write another section to it. Do you think if I go home and write another section that you can orchestrate it before we do this concert? And he was like, sure, go ahead and do it. And I went away and I wrote a quick little bridge that I felt, made the song complete. And he orchestrated and we performed it at that concert. And then that's the version. And I think I did one little lyric change after that, but that was the version that went into the show. And I was really proud of myself for like not just sort of sitting on my laurels, as it were, with it at that point and continuing to like make sure that it was doing what it needed to do and say what it needed to say.
It's incredible. How much of Michael R. Jackson do we see in Usher?
So, it's funny. I always say that I should one day do like a podcast or something where I walk people through the show and I tell them literally exactly scene by scene, everything in it that's like what relationship it has to my life and what's different about it. Because the truth of it is that it's a mix of fact and fiction. And that's why I don't call it an autobiography, because it's not that simple. I definitely drew from personal experience to write it, but like I also, because I wrote it over such a long period of time, at a certain point, I wasn't necessarily the same person that I was when I started it, but the piece still was being what it was. And so I had developed a distance from it, which actually enabled me to like be more creative and sort of take license where I needed to take license in order to tell the story of this 25 going on 26-year-old, Black gay man who was sort of struggling.
Incredible. With A Strange Loop, you wrote a part of the LGBT community that is underrepresented in mainstream musical. What does the recognition the amount of recognition you are receiving for this show, what does it all mean to you?
It means to me that it was worth it to take my time to tell the story that I was going to tell. It's not a lot of people spend, nearly 2 decades of their life working on one piece of art. Because it's very easy to give up and there were so many times along the way I had no idea that the show would ever go to off Broadway, let alone on Broadway, let alone win a Pulitzer, let alone win a Tony or anything that came after that. And so when I hear people come up to me or send me messages or send me, fan mail or whatever, I sort of take it as a validation that I didn't just sort of accept my first impulse on everything, that I like really asked questions and dug deeper and tried to say the thing that I really was trying to say, even if it was uncomfortable or weird or whatever. And so that's how I sort of take it. But I also appreciate that the show does mean a lot to people. And that for me is also a testament just to the power of the form, that like you can reach people like in this one-to-one way in mass, and that people can decide for themselves what something means to them. And especially in, a climate that we live in now that I feel is like very divided in the world, particularly in this country, that this idea that we still can get in a room together and experience like a common experience and like meet each other where we are, that I find that to be a powerful elixir. And I feel really, grateful to be a practitioner of the form that does that.
Well said. And I love this story that you told about fans who listened to the soundtrack but had not yet seen the show, and they told you that through the music they felt seen for the first time. I can only imagine that kind of reaction has got to really mean a lot to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's not, not to make everything about soap operas, but it's not different than, to me, like, because many years ago I interned at All My Children, and I sometimes would see the fan mail that would come to people at the studio, and like people would say that like, I seen this story change my life, or it helps me talk to my husband about this thing, or whatever it was. And so like there's something about that that's just that makes me feel like I'm just very blessed and fortunate to be able to promote a a connection, like to promote something that gives people a connection or an outlet or an opening or some sort of like balm, you know, wherever they are in life. They're maybe going through a place where they feel unseen or unheard or misunderstood, which is exactly how I felt when I started writing the piece. That's why I wrote it, because I felt alone in the world and I felt like nobody could hear me or cared. I mean, my family, of course, but I felt alone. And so I wrote to not feel alone. And then one day I woke up and all these people were able to see the show or listen to the cast albums, and they made me feel a little less alone. And that for me is like a win.
Incredible. I can only imagine how much response you've received, but is there something that sticks out to you?
Well, I mean, it's two things. Well, one is that because people are always asking me about my parents, and I always have to be like very clear. My parents love the show. They first saw it when it was off Broadway, and I was very nervous for them to see it, not necessarily because of the content of it that you may draw conclusions about our relationship, but because they had never seen any of my art at all. And they're not like regular theater goers or anything like that. And so I was partially like, oh, what if they just don't like it? And that wasn't their experience. Like, there were things that they probably didn't understand or needed to listen to again or see again or whatever. But like, they were so proud of what I had made and watching people watch my work. And like, and we had this beautiful moment off Broadway when the day they came, it just sort of organically, they were standing in the lobby and I was talking to them. And then this crowd just like gathered all around. And then my parents both started being like, Michael used to always read when he was little. And they just started sort of like giving out little monologues about, you know, how proud they were. And everybody was just watching. It was like, it was so cool. And it really, I think, was a turning point in our relationship, because weirdly, that was the one thing that I sort of hadn't come out of the closet on with them, like as an artist.
Yeah.
And that was just like a beautiful moment. And another really cool moment that sticks out to me is this guy came up to me after one of our previews, I think. And he like waited a really long time to come and talk to me. And then like, as people went away, and he came up to me and he started telling me about how he had struggled a lot to be accepted as gay in his family. And there was a lot of tension around that. And then I guess he had brought some of his family members to see the show. And with them seeing the show, it opened up a dialogue in their family around his sexuality that had not previously been there. And I was just so moved to hear that, because it's not like I planned that. I didn't know. I had no idea how anyone would ever react to the show at any moment. So like, to have someone share that with me, that again, that the piece, it helps them in some way, especially in that way. I just thought, how awesome. And so I'll always remember that.
I think really indefinitely, Michael, you will continue to hear in the ways in which you touched people through your art. So congratulations. I think it's time for you to do that little thing we said you were going to do.
Sounds good. All right. Should I go now?
Yeah, you go now.
All right.
Everybody, listen. Michael, amazing, Michael. Come meet Kim Zimmer, Michael.
I'm in tears.
So, he did that for me backstage. I was in tears too.
Oh my God. Oh, Michael. What an incredible human being you are. I've been sitting here listening to this interview, and I'm so proud of Detroit. having raised you. I'm so proud of your parents. I'm so proud that you've won a frickin' Pulitzer. I mean, it's just, your show is brilliant. I'm so glad I saw it. It was just kind of a chance thing that we went. I didn't know anything about it, and it was the greatest, outside of childbirth, the greatest surprise of my life was this show and this gift you've given us. Just thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you. And as I told you, like, I was so pleased, so happy when I found out that you were there, because I've been such a fan of yours forever and ever and ever and ever. And so I meant a lot that you were there.
You're so sweet. Wow. And then that day that I posted the thing on Instagram and you responded, and I was like, this has to be fake. This, you
thought you were being punked.
I thought I was being punked. And then when Mr. Jackson responded too, I was like, the other Mr. Jackson.
James Jackson, who's also in our cast.
Yeah. I mean, I just was like, this is just too much to believe. So it's an honor for me to be able to have this moment of time with you. Thank you, Alan, for doing this.
You're so welcome. I saw the exchange on Instagram and wanted to do it. And then I wanted to see the show first, too. I had, just like you, Kim, I had heard about it, but I didn't really know in detail what it was about. Michael,
I went in totally blind and just was so pleasantly surprised and moved beyond
those performances. And your lead actor who plays Escher is 23?
Yeah, he'll be 24 in November.
And he graduated from Montclair High School, which is right down the road from my house.
I didn't realize he's a Jersey boy.
Well, he's from North Carolina. He's from North Carolina, but he went to high school
in
period in New Jersey.
Okay. Well, both of you, tell us both of your experiences growing up in Michigan.
Oh gosh, I mean, me, I went to, I told a lot of it earlier, but I went to Golightly Educational Center. I went to middle school and high school at the same high school as Diana Ross.
Oh wow.
And I had a pretty ordinary childhood. I was very in the church and in the arts and my father was a police officer. My mother worked at General Motors in the accounting department, and it was just pretty ordinary. Like in the summer, we'd go visit my relatives in the South. Just basic stuff.
Kim just got back from Michigan.
Oh, great. I did. I just finished doing Misery.
Oh my God! I saw that on Broadway.
I'm rubbing my elbow because I have lots of little injuries from this show. Oh my God!
Does the man?
I think he inflicted more injuries on me than I did on him. So.
Oh no!
No, we had a gas. We did that at the Barn Theater in Augusta, Michigan, which is outside of Kalamazoo, which is one of the oldest regional theaters that still allows young actors to get points towards their union cards.
Oh, great.
So I think there's like 2 of them left. So it's just, I go every year and do at least one show there in the summer. So, and I had a very normal. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Kim. Yeah, go ahead.
I had a very normal upbringing too. I mean, I was a cheerleader for 6 years, junior high, high school, of course, rah-rah, Forest Hills, outside the Grand Rapids. And I had a father who had a printing company and a mother who dabbled in community theater making costumes. So, that was, and I have a sister, beautiful sister who danced a little bit. And other than that, pretty normal.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's why
with a dream.
I was gonna
like you.
And dreams do come true. Looking at you two, I was gonna say to you, Michael, both Kim and Robert Newman, who played Josh, go back to the barn every summer.
You all did something together, like a couple of years ago.
We did Lion in Winter.
Yes.
Yeah, which was great too. You know, that was fantastic. And then we did Mamma Mia last summer, but we didn't even. I pinched him in the ass in the curtain call. That was all we had to do because I played Rosie and he was the other leading man. So that's pretty much all the contact we had in the show.
Right.
And did you get to see him in Rock of Ages?
I did. I couldn't recognize him, but yes, I saw him. He had this terrible wig on, and you know, it's community. It's basically community. It's regional theater, but it's basically community theater in the middle of a cow field. So you know, he had a terrible wig on, but he's such a cutie. He was good. He was very good.
Is.
Yes.
Kim, I don't know if you knew this, but I just read this about Michael. He actually came to New York because he wanted to be a soap writer.
Well, I heard that in the interview.
Yeah.
I like you said, Alan, it would have been we could have used someone like you writing for the soaps, definitely.
Yeah.
They had a real warped sense of writing for African American characters. They thought they had to write white story or black stories for them instead of just writing a story. They thought that they had to write, you know, a black story, and it just was. So
this is kind of what my next musical is about a little bit.
Ooh.
It's opening off Broadway in 2023.
Yeah, it'll be an off Broadway next season. Or
tell her the name. Tell her the name.
I think I saw it.
White Girl in Danger.
Yes, I saw that. Yeah. Oh, wow. Oh, so it's not opening until 23?
Yeah, in March.
Oh, okay. Oh, wow. So it has that kind of white girl in danger meaning. You don't want to say probably.
Well, there's a lot of layers to it.
Yes.
It sort of started off as a joke that I had in my mind like 10 years ago that was based most specifically on like Lifetime movies, because I also grew up watching those. Like She Cried No, She Fought Alone, you know, Mother Master for Danger, like this sort of thing. And I sort of was like, oh, the thing that links all of these movies together that I love is like White Girl in Danger. It's like a white woman or a girl, like someone's chasing her, someone's trying to kill her, she's trying to kill herself because she has an eating disorder, like whatever it is.
Oh my God, I love that.
And so it was just gonna be a sort of parody or satire of that. But then I started to think about all these conversations about diversity, inclusion, equity, representation, etc. And it's because these conversations start to heat up in the theater world in a major way over the last, let's say, 6-7 years.
Definitely.
And I just start to think about what I thought about that, because I come at it as a writer. And I've always written characters who were Black. Like that's what I know. But I also grew up watching She Cried No, She Fought Alone, Another World, Tina Barbara, One Night to Live, you know, like, and so it was like, these two little molecules sort of started to like come together, and it turned into this idea called White Girl in Danger, which is set in a soap opera town called All White.
That's hysterical.
All White? Yeah. In the town of All White, there's
oh my God, that's brilliant.
There's two races and classes of people. There's the All Whites who have like all these storylines and their lives just are endless. And then the other people are the Black Rounds who have
the Black Rounds.
Yeah. They are sort of stuck on the margins in like slavery and police violence storyline.
Oh my
and then one of them, this girl named Chica, is like, I want to be in one of the all white storylines. So she begs the writer of the universe, who's kind of like Oz, you know, and he moves her to be a best friend to three of the all white girls, Megan, Megan, and Megan, who have like big problems. And she starts to steal their storylines away.
Oh my
And then the
God.
writer sends the all-white killer after her. Because the all-white killer is like picking off the most beleaguered girls sort of one by one.
I hear another Pulitzer coming.
I mean, that is
and I
genius.
I also hear a role for an aging diva playing Oz, a white girl.
Well, there's a lot of surprises. There's a lot of surprises in there. So, but it's a big sprawling epic piece. I'm taking like a big swing. But I'm excited. I've been developing it for the last couple of years. I'm very excited about it. I'm nervous. I'm like, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. I'm so scared, you know? Like I feel all the feelings about it, but I feel very passionate about the genre of it because as I mentioned, I grew up on my stories. But I also, there's a deeper message inside of it as well.
Yes,
it sounds genius. One of the fans who just wrote a message said, "This is soap dish on acid."
Yeah. Oh my God. This was one of my, I mean, people don't understand. Like I was not a casual soap fan. I watched all of them or most of them for a certain period of time. I had a subscription to Soap Opera Digest. When Another World, which was my favorite show until it went off the air, Michael
borrowed this, but this used to be Michael's table.
Yes. Well, no, it's my table right now. It's my table right now because Florencia Lozano, who was on One Night to Live, is my neighbor, and she loaned me those.
Yes.
And I have subscription to Soap Digest. I know like Nene Torchin and like Carolyn Hinsey, it's only my opinion. Like deep, I intern at All My Children. I intern at ABC Daytime for the network.
Yeah, wow.
Youth marketing consultant job for them. I
feel like we never met before because your face is so. The first time I actually got to see your face, I think, was at the Tonys, and I was like, you so familiar looking. So we never passed in the hallways of ABC or any place, I guess.
I don't think so because you were at One Night to Live at Will.
You probably weren't even born yet.
Well, no, you were on there when you started. I wasn't born yet, but like when you went back, I was watching. But I had long left. I'd been gone by then. But I interviewed for a job. So literally, the weird thing is that when I went to school for musical theater writing, I had just applied for a job at CBS Daytime. And I can't remember who the woman, it was a female executive who would have been working for her. And I can't
think who that might have been.
I don't.
What year?
This would have been 2004 or 2003, 4. It was. She had an office at Worldwide Plaza, which I was thought was so cool.
So that was Mickey Dwyer Dobbin.
Mickey Dwyer Dobbin, yeah.
I think it was her. I think I interviewed. I didn't.
Mary Alice Dwyer Dobbin was her full name.
Yeah.
So I think I had applied to work for her, and then I got into the grad program, and I decided to go in that direction. But
good choice,
Michael. That was actually Procter and Gamble because that was my office.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
So it was As the World Turns and Guiding Light.
But I love that it was called Worldwide Plaza because Lucinda.
Yes, Lucinda ran Worldwide Plaza.
And I know that's the thing. I know like all of you.
Yeah,
I know all of you. Like I was obsessed with that industry.
I learned everything I know today from Elizabeth Hubbard when we were on The Doctors together.
Oh, that's right.
You know, I would just watch her. She taught me so much just by watching her.
Broad. Like I love her.
Yep.
Tell us, Michael, who you told me backstage. Tell us who introduced you to soaps.
My great aunt Ruth, may she rest in peace. When I was like 4 or 5 years old, before I started like preschool and kindergarten, my mother would drop me off while she was at work at her house, and we would watch Young and the Restless at 12:30. And then Days of Our Lives at 1, and then Another World at 2, and then Santa Barbara at 3. And then I would go in another room and watch cartoons for the rest of the afternoon.
That's why your next show is going to be brilliant. It has been in you since you are 5 years old.
Yeah. I mean, it's just I love the form of it. I mean, particularly in the olden days, I feel like it's very different now.
Yes, it is.
But like in the old days, like, and here's the thing, Guiding Light specifically, I started watching Guiding Light in the late 90s, but in the sort of intervening years, I got caught up on a lot of before because of YouTube.
Right.
And so a lot of what I know about Guiding Light are things that I didn't see in real time, but I like went back and like watched like episodes with like Annie Dutton or like with when Beverly McKenzie as Alex, when she like told Billy that Roger had been sleeping with Mindy and there was that whole big fight. I watched those scenes so many times because Beverly McKenzie was fucking incredible.
Yes.
But I started watching the show proper in I'll tell you when, because Kim, you're not gonna like this, but I started watching it literally right during the Dolly storyline.
I love the Dolly.
She loved
Dolly.
Oh, I thought you didn't like that storyline.
Oh no! I loved it, and it was so funny because once it took a while, but the minute the fans started accepting Dolly, they decided to kill her because the fans were not happy about the storyline. She OD'd on the rapid growth serum.
Right. I think
herself.
That's right. But I think the reason why I got into it was because that was at the time the show I had been really raised on was Days of Our Lives. And that storyline was very much in a kind of Days wheelhouse.
Right.
And so it was enough of a gateway to then get me into everything else.
So you weren't part of that. I think that was after you didn't see us time travel through Crystal Chappelle's breasts too.
I saw you do the time traveling. That I wasn't so sure about that storyline, but like all the San Cristobal stuff and like Richard and Cassie and and like all the and also I know that she didn't like this storyline, but I loved it. The nursery rhyme stalker. Oh, Holly as the nursery rhyme stalker was like one of my favorite things ever.
But you, I had to because you didn't grow up on Holly, but
I went back. So then I went back and I was like, oh my god, like Holly. But her character in general, like just like this sort of really intelligent woman running the television station and like the news lady, like and all her stuff with Roger and like Fletcher and then losing Meg and like I just
it's amazing.
All the stuff with her and Ed and like the scenes like when Lillian that was Maureen. Sorry, Maureen. Because Maureen had just been killed off before I started watching.
Yes.
I didn't see any of those scenes until later on YouTube.
And all of those are on YouTube.
And so so I feel like I've seen the show for 25 years when I really only watched it from like that one point to like toward the end. But like it was so good. Like, and y'all had one of the greatest cast like ever. Just like truly.
Yes, like, and people who would come and do guest spots on our show, like really like Broadway really good actors would come and work with us, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, you guys are this is unbelievable." And then people who had done other soaps in New York were like, "This is the best set ever," because we all respected each other. Pardon me.
I love the Bauer.
He loved the Bauer kitchen.
Everything happened in the Bauer kitchen.
Everything did. Michael, tell Kim what you were just watching before.
I've seen it many times, but I decided to watch your 1985 Emmy win.
With your hair.
You take off your shoes to go on the stage.
Yeah, because I was I didn't want to trip. I didn't want to trip and fall.
And you gave like such a good speech. It was that was the thing. I used to watch the Soap Opera Digest Awards every year.
Yeah.
I still have some of them. I still have a TD VCR combo in my other room that works. And I still have, I think, the 1999 Soap Digest Award because that was the year that Another World went off the air.
Oh, and so they did a tribute
to it and to Passions. and I wanted to watch it. And they had this like really beautiful Barbara Streisand song that plays as they're doing like the reel. Like the Soap Digest Awards, the Daytime Emmys, those were like the most important award shows to me above anything else when I was a teenager.
Me too.
Amazing. Michael, you and Kim were talking.
People will be as excited about your plays as you are about your past with the daytime soaps.
Oh, I sure hope so.
They will be. Yes.
Because just that's the thing about it. Like, even like, how can you not get excited about that? It just touches you like where you live, and like the opening with the parachutes
the lighthouse going around.
All of that. It's something that you could rely on every day.
Yep.
And it just would keep going and going and going and going, and you could always call back. And when I was growing up, what used to happen is that when I started school, I couldn't watch every day, so I would come home and I would call my great aunt and I would say, "Aunt Ruth, what happened on Days of Our Lives today?" And then she would tell me, or I would come home on like a half day and I would watch it, and then I would call her and she would fill me in on the things that I did. I was like, "Wait, how is Roman John now?"
Right.
This whole big thing with Drake Hogestyn and Wayne Northrup, and that kept us like really connected.
Yes,
and it was like,
of course,
they had this intergenerational stories on the show. So like, there's the grandparents and the parents and the kids, and that there was something about that sort of community spirit that I think just really touched me, and so I just wanted it to go on forever and ever and ever and ever.
When our show went off the air, we did a number of trips to different cities where people could. It was the So Long Springfield events,
right.
And the one that touched me the most was New Orleans, and there were so many fans that were like, "Well, how am I going to fill this hour of my day?" And this woman was just an elderly woman, and she was crying and just I was holding her, and she was shaking, and I said, "Who is this standing next to you?" And she said, "This is my son." And I was like, "You will take that hour of your day and you will spend that hour with your son." And she was like, "Oh, would you do that with me?" She looks at her son and he was like, "Of course I will." Or it was her grandson or something, but it was the same. And I had 6 generations of Guiding Light viewers standing in front of me at one point. 6 generations. The great grandmother. I mean, it was just amazing.
And there's nothing like Soap fans. Like there's no fans like Soap fans. When I actually when Another Woman Off the Air, they had like a year, like I think a year later, they had like a reunion at Blondie's bar on 72nd Street. And I called out sick from work at my job so that I could go.
Were you ushering at the time?
No, I was. It was just a work study job in college. But like, I went, and I think Steven Schnetzer was there, and I can't remember.
He's a sweetheart.
Yeah, I met him since because he did a play at Playwrights Horizons where A Strange Loop was off Broadway. And when I went, there's this woman who asked him what he was up to, and he told her, and he said, "Well, we'll follow you to another world."
There you go.
These are my people. These are my people.
So Michael, hearing you play our theme song, I can't wait to hear what you open your show with.
Oh yeah, it opens with a theme song.
That's cool.
That's sort of drawn from a lot of different shows.
I'm excited.
You'll see.
But
I mean, I don't know. I'm just so excited to be here with y'all.
I'm excited that we got to do this.
You watched Kim on Designing Women.
Yes, the Rowdy Girl.
Yeah, the Rowdy Girls.
The Rowdy Girls. I've seen that episode so many times because it does what that show does so well.
Yeah.
Which is blend the sort of the comedy and the drama.
Yes.
And sort of these like really iconic performances and
Delta Burke in blackface.
Delta Burke in blackface, and Charlene. I think Being Smart was pregnant when that was being filmed. I think.
Wow.
I was pregnant.
Oh wait, you were pregnant. No, well, both. I think Jean's, well.
Oh, I think Jean was too. Yeah, she might have been too.
I don't know what her characters were, but I think Jean was pregnant at that time as well. And it was just such a good episode, and it just was so touching and so funny, and like all the things that she did really well, and like just like the scene when she comes in the house and we hear your husband like yelling at you.
Yes. Oh yeah, and the look on her face is
her face. That's all, and Jean is like so good at that.
Yeah, yeah.
It was like
I'm so happy she won her second Emmy last week.
Oh my God, me too.
Yeah.
Michael, your memory is amazing.
I also watched you in Body Heat.
Oh yes, don't blink.
No, but those moments, like I would always do that with my soap people, like wherever I could like find them.
Yeah,
like that is the thing, Michael, about us soap fans. We do follow the people we love everywhere. Yeah, we do. That's because they are family.
Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Because of Eileen and Lisa.
Yeah. That's why I started watching. And Lisa came to see the show last night with Harry Hamlin, and I got to meet them, and that was awesome.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. Hey, Kim, you're on your iPad or phone? Good. Are you on your iPad or phone?
I'm on my iPad. Why, is there a problem?
Can you try turning it? Yeah, just try turning, because iPad. Try turning it, because I want to see if it... Yep, perfect. Because I'm going to take a picture of the three of us.
I'm turning.
Nope. Oh, no. Horizontal, because you have it.
I don't know where to look.
Oh, put it... if you turn it that way, right now, you're good.
Ooh, that's too close. Too close.
Okay, too close. I'm going to take a picture of the three of us when you're ready.
Let me go up here.
I also watched...
I don't know where to look.
Jake was on when Jake was on.
On Guiding Light.
Did you take it, Alan?
On As the World Turns.
Oh, yeah. Hold on 1 second.
Oh, yeah.
One. Michael, smile.
Wait.
Oop.
That's better, isn't it?
All right, just do it that way. Yeah, do it that way. Yeah, perfect. 1, 2, 3. I'll send that to you, Michael. Oh, so you watched Jake on As the World Turns.
As the World Turns.
Luke for a brief moment. He was Luke.
He was, yes.
He was Luke for longer than a brief moment. I mean, he was there almost a year.
Oh, okay.
Alan?
Yeah. Oh, at least, for sure. Yeah, but he had his first part on Guiding Light playing Jake.
Yeah, that was thanks to Alan.
There was a scene Kim had, I don't remember what, interacting with a young boy named Jake, and I suggested Jake.
Yep.
You should watch Animal Kingdom.
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Animal Kingdom, but I know that he's on that show.
Yeah.
I don't want to give anything away, but the finale was...
Yeah, I mean, I'm so proud of the work he does. I mean, it's just, I know he's my kid and I love him to death, but he's such a wonderful, wonderful actor. So
it's like watching you, my dear.
Thank you. Yes.
It really, I mean.
Can I ask a question I've wanted to ask you, Kim, for years that I've always wondered about? Was there a decision behind the scenes on the show at a certain point in the evolution of Reva for Reva to no longer have an accent?
Thank you, Paul Rausch, who was our executive producer at the time. When Reva came back from the Caribbean island, and I was the princess, and then I was in Amish country, living in amongst the Amish people with Alan Spalding
and Abby.
And Abby, yes. Yeah. He said, you can't be Amish and have a Southern accent. And I was like, okay. So it just kind of, I guess you can't have a Southern accent and say these, thems, and thous, you know. So the Southern accent just kind of went away.
I figured it had to be during that period, but I always wanted to know. Because I thought it was interesting. Because there was like the period before when Reva Shayne from the sticks of Oklahoma.
Yeah. even though people in Oklahoma would be like, we don't talk like that. We went we went further south than that.
Wait, but Taylor Armstrong kind of does, and Taylor Armstrong on Real House of Beverly Hills, she definitely is like y'all, like she's definitely.
Oh, okay, okay.
That to me and to my ear, but
yeah.
Anyway, I always was so curious about that.
Yeah, well, that's what it was.
Hey, Michael, I was curious because you miss your accent.
Yes, yeah. But then it's weird because people, when I'd meet them on the street, they'd say, "Oh, can you say this with your Southern accent?" And I'd be like, I couldn't just put it on, it was just weird. I couldn't just do it. It was just very strange. But yeah.
That is so funny. People on the street
so much fun.
They ask you to just turn it on. Michael, we were talking earlier about Black storylines on soaps. Knowing that you watched so many of them, who do you think did it right?
That's an interesting question. Well, I definitely
all my children
I think did a good job, but I think Young the Restless really sort of went for it in like a very different way than most of the other shows. But I do think that, like, obviously Debbie Morgan and Darnell Williams as Angie and Jesse are icons that are quite beloved by the Black soap watching community, but so are like Drusilla and Neil and Olivia and Malcolm and Mamie as well. I mean, I think it's a hard question to answer because it just sort of depends on, I think the actors who did that would have a different answer than I would have, and probably other viewers would have a different answer. Whenever I would see Black characters on soaps, I just always wanted them to be as sort of in the mix as everybody else. And to varying degrees, they would or wouldn't. And so the things that would excite me would be things like on Days of Our Lives, which was like my main show for a long time. There was this character who was on not for very long named Nurse Lynn, who was kind of bad. And she was helping Sammy Brady do like bad things. And she was helping Kristen DeMira like keep Laura Horton in a coma so that she couldn't tell people something about John and Marlena or whatever. And so I would always like, I want to see that Black character like not be just like sort of a paragon of virtue. And so and some of them picked it up more than others. So who did it right? They all had their moments. But I just wanted them to be more in the mix.
Right. Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. They needed to be woven in to the fabric.
I mean, like I remember on Guiding Light when they brought Victoria Platt on as a Spalding. And I was sort of like very excited for like where that might go. But then
it just went away.
And it sort of went away. But there were lots of things that sort of happened like that on shows where like some exciting thing would happen. And I can only assume that like some network executive in a room was like 86 that, because I interned for the network at ABC Daytime and I would hear them say like, it was very clear that they often had these sort of like machinations that would then work its way into what would happen on the show.
Right. Interesting.
Did you get to watch Tamara Tooney on As the World Turns?
Oh, and I love Tamara. Her and Duncan and Bonnie and Marshall Travers. Love. I mean, but also she's like an incredible actress.
Right.
And so it was often just came down to that of like some of these actors are really great, like Tim Stickney on One Life to Live, and like
with all his dreads.
With all his dreads, and like Hamilton Cobb on All My Children, and like Renee on
from Hamilton.
No,
Goldsberry.
I meant her, but I meant on Days of Our Lives, Renee Abe Carter's wife who died. I mean, character died.
Yeah.
And like Tanya Boyd, who like I'm almost like justice for Celeste Perrault on Days of Our Lives. there's so many interesting characters on all of those shows. When I was interning on My Children, Michael B. Jordan was like a teenager.
Right.
When I was interning there. So it was always exciting to me to see any Black folks on there. I was like, well, what are they doing? And like, where are they going? What's going to happen? You know? So, you know, everybody did okay.
Yes.
Do you still watch today?
So this is a hard thing for me because, again, I grew up on like classic for many, many, many years. And I tuned into Days of Our Lives the other day to see the transition to Peacock. And I hadn't watched Days of Our Lives for over 20 years now. And it's just, for whomever it's for whomever it's for. It's not my childhood soap. It just isn't. Right. The production values, the acting style, like just the writing, like it's just it's a totally different thing. And then I then turned to General Hospital, which was like the last show that I watched with any regularity. And there's some things that feel the same there because they still have some of the older people. Right. Whereas Days of Our Lives, when I watched, I like didn't know who anyone was, like at all.
Wow.
Well, talk about remaining the same. Young and Restless has the same.
And Young and Restless, and I think they've got everybody. They've got all the same people. So I need to tune into. Maybe now is the time for me to start watching YNR because that was the one that I'd never watched with a whole lot of regularity. But that being all said, so no fans get mad at me. Please watch Days of Our Lives on Days of Our Lives on Peacock. It's my time with Salem, I think, came to an end, and I'm just gonna have my memories of, you know, the Brady Pub and of, you know, all and like Kimberly having multiple personalities and all the things that I loved as a kid, and Jack and Jennifer making love for the first time on the Island of Deception, like things like that.
Oh God, what a fan!
God, incredible. What are you both watching on television these days? Anything to recommend?
I'm watching House of Dragons.
Oh, I heard that's good.
the prequel to, and we watched The Old Man, which I really enjoyed.
EJ was great.
Yeah, he was great. Another Guiding Light alum. Yeah.
And also working opposite John Lithgow, EJ.
Yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
Wow. What did you say, Michael?
What were you saying, Michael?
I said, what's the show that Tom Pelphrey's on?
Oh, Ozark.
Outer Range.
Oh, you mean Outer Range.
On Prime.
I tried watching that. I couldn't.
Oh, we loved it.
Is it good? Okay, good. I'll try it again.
Oh, I would definitely go back. It's interesting.
But I love the two of you. Oh, it's Jonathan and Reva. My God. Oh, when he came on and you had him to play with. Oh, it was so good.
I know, and I tried not to get him hired. I was like, this guy. I went in after all the auditions, and I was like, anybody but that guy. And it was Pelphrey. I tell that story all the time. He kind of scared me, you know.
He's intense.
Plus, he had a real Keanu Reeves kind of vibe, and I was like, he's posing as Keanu Reeves. I just don't get it. But oh my God, it was the best.
When he cut off his hair.
Yeah, yeah.
Michael, if you haven't seen his performance,
yes.
If you have not seen his performance on Ozark, you need to watch Ozark.
I need to watch that show. People say that show is good.
His performance there, wow. Right, Kim? Tom?
Yes, definitely.
And did you see him at the Emmys?
I didn't see him at the Emmys. He was with Haley Cuoco.
Kaylee,
yeah.
Thin as can be, handsome and thin as can be.
Wow. Good for him. I'm so happy for him.
How's grandma life?
grandma life is great. I'm gearing up here to see. I haven't seen my two little boys in 3 weeks, so I'm seeing them tonight, and then tomorrow we're going up to the Berkshires to celebrate Sophie's 3rd birthday. My granddaughter, my first granddaughter, and Max and Vera are actually in Brooklyn. They rented a house for 2 months, so they're going to be up there too. So yeah, with Zaza.
Oh.
I have 4 grandchildren, Michael.
Oh, what is Jake's?
Congratulations.
Pardon
Tell me,
me?
Jake's.
Zaza.
Zaza.
Zaza, not Jaja. Zaza.
Beautiful.
She's a big Dutch baby. Woo, she's big. She's got big hands, big feet. She's just big.
Blonde hair and blue eyes?
No, blue eyes, but she's strawberry blonde. I mean, she's like almost red. You know, it's weird. Yeah.
I mean, congratulations. That is really.
Thank you. I know.
something.
I'm having a ball. It's busy and it's exhausting, but it's fun.
You look healthy as can be. Kim and I, Michael, are absolutely going to make a date to come see that show in 2023.
Yeah.
So one thing that I'm hoping to plan with the theater specifically is a soap night.
So
that'd be
please get in
great.
touch. I'll help.
So I definitely will want to get in touch with you to see how I can make that happen in any
easily.
Yeah.
Because I know because I'm connected to a lot of folks from those days, and not just people in front of the camera, also people behind.
Yeah,
they would love it.
I took a
we could get Mimi Torch in there too.
Get Mimi Torch in,
and Carolyn,
get all of them.
Yeah.
But like because I used to oh shoot, what was I gonna say? When I was in
wait until
college,
you're my age.
I know. When I was in college, I took a soap writing class with Harding LeMay.
Oh wow!
I felt very fortunate to get to study with him.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I actually learned a lot about storytelling from him.
That's great.
So behind the scenes, the writers, producers, TDs, makeup ladies, whatever.
Well, our head writer Jill Laurie Hurst will come in from Detroit, another Michigan.
Oh yeah.
Executive producers you hated, executive producers you loved. Like, I always know that, like, because from reading like the magazines and over several years, there would be like people who hated Jill Theron Phelps, people who loved Jill Theron Phelps, people who like this writer or that writer or blah 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 blah. So
yeah,
I want them all. I want them all to come see White Girl in Danger.
That's
amazing.
Great. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Here, I'm gonna take another pick because Kim, you fixed your thing. I don't know what you did.
Yeah.
Here we go.
I haven't done anything.
1, 2, and 3. Perfect. Kim, Michael, I can't thank you both. Michael, for playing that music, for spending this time.
Aww. Golly, and it's the organ and everything.
It gives you chills.
Da, 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 da.
I used to always say, the guiding light, follow the guiding light, follow it through the storm, through the rain, through the night.
Toward the light.
I used to just make up words to sing along with that.
Oh my God.
Alan, thank you for contacting me and putting me in touch with this wonderful man and yourself, of course. It's been a great joy.
Thank you, Alan.
I really enjoyed it.
Pleasure to meet you, Michael. Thank you for that beautiful piece of art.
Yes.
We'll see you soon.
Yes. Thank you guys so much.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Michael, thank you, my friend.
Thank you. I'll talk to you.
Absolutely. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. Thank you, Michael R. Jackson and Kim Zimmer, for joining us. Run, don't walk to the Lyceum Theater to see A Strange Loop. Please join me tomorrow to meet actress Arisha Connor, who you may recognize from Dope Sick. She played Michael Keaton's nurse. If you enjoyed today's interview, please hit the like button. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications for reminders of all upcoming shows. And you can download your favorite audio podcast by just searching The Locker Room on all streaming platforms. Have a great afternoon, and I will see you all tomorrow.